Well, y'all wanted it, so y'all get it. This is episode 38 of my inexpensive knife series, and this one is on the Gerber. See if it'll focus in. Mini suspension multi-tool. The logo is pretty worn off at this point. I've been carrying this for about I'd say almost a year now, if not a complete year now. One thing I want to say is that I have reviewed a very similar tool to this before. It was the Bear Grylls Compact Multi-Tool by Gerber. And the only differences between that tool and this tool, besides the handle scales, are this one has a nail file and the other one had a serrated blade. So other than that, there is no difference between the two tools. And there we go, gotta let my camera focus again. Also, I want to ask a quick question. How do y'all feel about me using my playing card playmats or trading card playmats as a background for the videos? I feel they make a nice service. The last one I used was kind of busy, so I went to something simpler. Hopefully it makes for a decent background here. But anyways, hopping right into it. Like always, I will mention if you don't have, or like I always try to mention, if you don't have time to watch the whole video and you just want to know whether you should buy it or not, you can get these right now for around 10 to 15 bucks a piece. And if you want to pick up a cheap multi-tool that actually has decent quality and will function, this is very much worth it. It's one of the best tools in its price range. However, I will say if you can afford a Leatherman Squirt, or are looking at the Gerber Dime and comparing it to this tool, I would pick either of the other two multi-tools over the Gerber Mini Suspension. I actually did used to own a Gerber Dime, and I carried it every single day until it came up missing one day, which really made me, you know, it's kind of upsetting. I love that little tool, and yes, I theoretically could go out and just buy another one, but my funds are tight enough as it is that I don't really have the cash to throw around. But if you're looking for a decent multi-tool that you can just slip in your pocket, throw on your keychain, this is a good one to go for. Disclaimer, I do not recommend putting tools like this on your keychain. The weight of something like this on your keychain will eventually wear out your ignition much faster than your normal keys would. So I don't actually recommend ever putting something this heavy on your keychain. Anyway, into the tool review. We're going to start with the pliers on this tool. And they're what you expect from a miniature multi-tool. They're spring and loaded needle nose pliers. They come together to a, let's see if you can see this here. There you go. They come together to a decent grip, fairly tight, and they meet precisely. There is, testing here, trying to see if there's any play in the pliers. And if it's moving, I don't see it, so I don't detect any play in the pliers themselves. Zoom in. I love this new camera, by the way. We do have a miniature wire cutter at the base here. I will say that's actually pretty much useless. I was unable to even cut paper clips with mine. So if you're looking at this and needing a decent wire cutter, avoid this particular tool. I'll say that right now. Mostly for aesthetics, we do have a regular plier section here, which we can indeed use to spin small bolts and screws. I have done it. One complaint I will say is how squared the tips are. I would prefer a finer point like we see in the Gerber Dime. However, I suppose, you know, not everyone's looking for the same kind of thing, and this might give you a better grip if you're trying to hold a wider surface. Spring tension on the pliers is absolutely fine. They open up decently wide. Let's see if I can give you some form of reference. Here is a standard D6 die. We can fit that most of the way in the plier head here. Sorry I don't have a better reference, but that's kind of what I can use to show you. The pliers do open decently wide. Into the other tools, I know everyone likes to see the knife blade, so here it is. You do get a very small, I'd say roughly 2-inch blade on your Gerber Mini Suspension. As you can see here, it comes with a polish. I haven't used the blade too much because I usually carry another knife with me anyways. There we go. However, I have gotten some use out of it, and it does use Gerber's standard 7CR 17 MOV steel. It doesn't hold an edge for a very long amount of time, but it is extremely easy to sharpen, and it does come to a very, very fine edge. Also, out of box, the blade came nice and sharp, so it is actually a usable blade out of box. It is hollow ground, which you guys all know I love. We have a decent amount of belly in the blade for some small slicing tasks, but let's be honest, you're not going to use this for much more than opening up your mail. We actually, and also I want to mention, we do have decent tension on the back spring for this, so it's not likely to slam shut if you're trying to cut into a cardboard box with it. I know a lot of cheaper tools, your blade will just kind of fold on you, you'll slice your fingers. No such worries here. It does deploy via nail nick, and it's a nice groove, a nice cutout groove for us to access. Very easy to deploy that blade. Yeah. The nail file on the other side is a tool that I will never use and, never have used. So I can't actually speak to how well it functions, mostly because I don't file my nails. I have used the nail digger. That works out just fine, but I've never actually used the file itself, so I can't tell you exactly what kind of performance it's going to have. I'd say it probably will function like what you get on a pair of cheap nail clippers. Something along those general lines. I'm sure you can find a use for it. I just haven't happened to need it yet. I suppose I could use it if I needed like some really rough sandpaper type stuff. Other tools on the multi-tool include the large flathead screwdriver that also doubles as a cap lifter or a bottle opener. The screwdriver function of it, part of it works decently enough. You can see it does come to a thin enough tip. I know certain multi-tools were a little bit too thick and they couldn't fit into most screws. This one actually functions just fine. However, the bottle opener on it is not perfect. I find it takes about 2 to 3 passes on a bottle to get it open with this tool, but still not too bad. On the other side, we have our Phillips head screwdriver, which is flat or two-dimensional. It doesn't work as well as a real screwdriver would, but do you really expect it to? I mean, look at it. It is a miniature two-dimensional flathead screwdriver, or Phillips head screwdriver. It works decently enough, but if you need something if you're trying to use a lot of torque, you want to get a real tool, because you're likely to just snap this if you're putting any real pressure on it. Still, it does its function decently enough. By the way, I forgot to mention there are actual labels, I guess, on each side that tell you what tool is on which side. That way you don't need your blade and go to deploy your nail nick or something, or your nail file. Anyway, on the other side we have our small flathead driver. Again, it functions like the other drivers do, well enough, but don't put any serious torque on it. I find this one to be a bit thick for a small flathead screwdriver, so you may need to grind that down just a little bit. And then the most useful tool on the multi-tool, I think, because you just don't see it on enough multi-tools, is the tweezers. You really just do not see this kind of function on a plier type multi-tool or multi-plier tool. Usually you see these on Victorinox Swiss Army knives, Wenger Swiss Army knives, stuff of that category. So to see it on a multi-tool, I actually happen to really like. I think it's a nice utilitarian tool, and I would love to see it on more multi-tools in the future. That's the tool review of the Gerber mini suspension. Let's go ahead and zoom in here. What else can I really say about the tool? It's, again, around 10 to 15 bucks. It's a pretty good buy for that price range. Competitive options, like I mentioned before, the Gerber dime, which I feel is a slightly better tool. The Gerber clutch is identical to this, except for the handle scales. The Gerber vise is a little bit different. I would actually prefer this mini suspension / clutch over the vise. I feel this is just a better tool. I've held the vise before. I didn't like the bead blasting. It made the blades and the tools rust over very quickly, and it just didn't seem like as high a quality tool over the mini suspension. The Leatherman Squirt PS4, I believe, is a much better multi-tool than this, but it also costs about double the price of this. So, kind of a you get what you pay for type thing. And then we have the Gerber Bear Grylls multi-tool, which is again identical to this, except different handle scales. I believe it is also bead blasted, so watch out for that rusting. But it comes with a serrated blade instead of a nail file, which I actually would use more often. But that bead blasting is just a pain in my neck, so I don't, prefer to carry those tools anymore. I used to have one. I gave it to a friend of mine. He's been carrying it and loving it. But that is the Gerber mini suspension multi-tool. Definitely a decent enough tool for the money. One thing I will say is that having this in your pocket, you do notice it. It has a little bit of weight to it. I would say it's actually noticeably heavier than a Leatherman Squirt PS4 or a Gerber dime. But overall, it's not too bad if it's one of the few things you carry. Like these days, I honestly have been carrying, let's see, it's obviously this little multi-tool here, my Gerber Guardian folder that I reviewed a while back. I still have that, and I still carry that. And that's all the blades that I carry these days, unfortunately. Everything else I have is my cell phone, my wallet, my watch, which I may review sometime in the future. And that's actually just about it these days. Not a lot of gear, that's why I haven't done any EDC videos in quite a while. But anyways, sorry for the rant. If you're looking for a good cheap multi-tool, look no further than the Gerber mini suspension.